I've never spoken on this, not even to my parents or anybody around me. I'm a 22-year-old male, and this happened when I was about 14 or 15. My friends and I would always hang out at the local mall during our free time. One day, I had arrived earlier than my friends, and I was waiting at a seating area in the food court. There were a couple of couches around each other, and it was a common area for anyone to come and sit. So I didn't really notice when a man came over and sat at a couch across from me. I was sitting on my phone not paying attention until he spoke up and said something along the lines of, "Do you come here often?" I looked up to see a man who was in his late 50s to 60s. I told him that I did with my friends, and then he introduced himself. I still remember his first name as it was the same as my dad's. I didn't get an initial weird feeling. He looked normal enough, and I would have no reason to be weirded out by someone. So I told him my name, and we started making small talk. I'm a pretty sociable person, and I've been since a young age, so I was fine talking with what I assumed was just an older man wanting to chat with someone. He started asking me things that I like to do. I said that I enjoyed going out to the local lake and fishing and swimming, to which he said that he went out to that same lake every weekend, and he enjoyed fishing and swimming as well. I said that I enjoyed making music, and he said that he also liked to make music. I told him that I was an avid piano player, and he was excitedly telling me that he had a piano at his house. There were a few other things that I mentioned, and to everyone he said that he enjoyed doing the same thing as well. It all felt normal and right at first, but as we continued to talk, I kept getting a weirder and weirder feeling. It was almost like with everything he said, he was trying to prove something and win me over. He said that he had a boat at the lake and that we should go out sometime on it. He even said that he lived right across the street from the mall, and that I was welcome to stop by and play the piano anytime. Even going as far as telling me the complex that he lived in, and how to get there from the mall. He even said if I would like to, I could go over that same day and play his piano. With every passing minute, it felt like he was trying harder and harder to get me to hang out with him. Talking with him honestly gave me the weirdest primitive instinct feeling ever, like I was in the face of evil or bad intentions. After about 10 minutes of talking with him, I lied and said that my friends had arrived and that I was going to go and find them. He somewhat sadly said okay and wished me well. A couple of weeks go by and my friends and I go to the mall once again. We were all walking through the mall when out of the corner of my eye I see that same man, in a hoodie, walking past us in the opposite direction. We locked eyes for a split second and my heart immediately dropped. I didn't look back, and I honestly forgot about it not soon after. But for the next 2 or so months, I would keep seeing him randomly at the mall. I kept brushing it off as a coincidence, as there are definitely regulars at the mall who come often. So I really didn't think too much of seeing him, as he never spoke to me since that first day. I would just occasionally see him, and he would be looking at me. I was naive and had a semi-weird feeling anytime I saw him, but I really just brushed it off. Well, that was until one day. I went to the mall with my friends and we hung out for a few hours before all leaving and going home our separate ways. I get home and I go into my room. Nobody else was home and I was by myself for a couple of hours. My mom got home around 7 or 8 and would come into my room looking somewhat worried, asking if I had noticed a guy outside. I said no, and then she showed me her phone. We have 2 cameras, one in front of the house and one in the back. About 20 minutes after I got home, somebody approached our house. We lived off a very busy street and our front wall blocks a majority of the view of the street, so we didn't see a car park or anything, just a man walking up to our house from the street. The camera was located near our front door looking out to the driveway, so as he got closer I realized it was the same man who I'd always seen at the mall. I immediately felt sick to my stomach. He came and looked through the front glass door, and he walked over to the side of our house near our driveway and left the view of the camera. I remember that there was nothing on the back camera, so he had to have stayed by the side of our house for a bit. My room wasn't located over there, so I have no idea what he could have been doing. But he then came back around and looked through the front door again before walking away. I don't know if I was just too embarrassed or scared to say anything, but I said that I did not notice and didn't know who that was. My mom found it weird that he was looking in our house, but said that it could have been a homeless or a druggie because we live off a busy street with a bus stop right in front of our house. So we just went with that. My dad added more security cameras after this to deter people, and I never admitted to seeing him before. But after he showed up to my house, it was confirmed to me that he was following me around, and I don't know what his intentions were. He never came back to the house. We moved to a different part of the city not long after, and I was too far to go to that mall again. I haven't seen him since, and I wish to never again. For context, I'm 19 now when this happened when I was around 10 years old. I'm an 80% believer in the paranormal when it comes to other people's stories, but I am 100% a believer when it comes to my own. I have a few stories, but this is one that I have no other explanation to. I was probably 6 or 8 in this story, just judging on my bedroom. The layout is important, so please bear with me. As you walk into the hallway, it's the first room on the left. As you walk into your right is a straight wall. No bump outs, no windows. On the back wall, right in front of you is the window. To the left is another wall, but where you're standing at the door, if you look directly left, there's a bump out, where the closet will be at. That bump out is about 1 meter, maybe less. And then my bed is on the left wall as you enter past the bump out. My bed is positioned in the middle, with just the headboard touching the wall. As a kid and even now, I move a ton in my sleep, so I would be kicking the blankets off and waking up cold and having to reach and put them back on. Well, this night was no different. I had woken up cold and reached to my right to grab my blankets, and I had the urge to look at my door. And as I do, there's a kid peeking around it. A small black shadow that couldn't have been any taller than me at the time. I could make out a head, a shoulder, and a hand on the wall. I just went still, paralyzed with fear. Another thing to note that I do have 2 brothers, one older and one younger. They were with my dad at my grandma's house, so it was only me and my mom at home. When I saw it, I was scared obviously, but I didn't yell out. I didn't scream. I had to physically force myself to lay back down. And when I woke up that morning, I had kind of forgotten all about it. But it's only now that I remember it so vividly. I would see that boy often after that, always from the corner of my eye. Like when you would walk past a room and you would think that you saw something, but you would take a step back and look again and there's nothing. After we left that house in 2018, I didn't have any more of those. Another paranormal experience only happened about a month ago. I live in a small town in Australia, and I always take my 13-year-old Jack Russell mix for a short 20-minute walk down the road at about 7 or 7:30 at night. On this particular night, I had to take him a little bit later, around 8:30, as I had to work late and the sun was just setting to the point where I could see but not too well. That could have also been my poor eyesight, but it was enough to manage without needing a flashlight. Although I did have one on me, I just didn't want to use it. So we had just made our loop around a small community garden, and I was leaving the gate, so I looked to my right and saw a person in all black heading towards me. I was also wearing all black, so we both looked pretty suspicious. But out of panic, I crossed the road and headed left. They did the same not 1 second later. Now I'm a naturally fast walker, but I made myself go faster. All I had to do was cross the road one more time and turn right and go down a few houses, and then I would be back home. So walking faster, but not enough to where it was obvious. I crossed the road and turned right. This person didn't cross the road but turned right and stayed on at the other side of the road. We were about parallel in the street. I knew that if they crossed, I could run and I wasn't too far from home. When I got into my yard, the person stopped across the road at this point. I realized the door was locked and I didn't have a key. The person stayed across the road, so I rang the bell, and I was pounding on the door. My older brother answered and the person had just made it into our yard. My brother told the person to get lost and he walked back the way we came. My brother asked me who it was and I explained all of this to him. From this day, I take my dog for a walk before work now, early in the morning rather than after work and late at night. I do enjoy sunset walks, but for my safety, I've stopped, even after a year.